All right, hello HCA students. I'm on to record your lecture for 1002. Man, I've had tech issues today. I seriously have. Anyway, so my solution is, so I just give you an update before I move into your lecture. I will be going on campus to teach tomorrow. There's just too many things that have been piling up. Like I'm not sure between the update and the sound and other things. So I'm going to record this lecture and your 1004 lecture for today. And they'll be delivered in this format. And then I will be on campus to teach on Wednesday. So they shouldn't have any of these connectivity issues and restart and all the things. So I'm going to use my work. So I have my work laptop, but I'm going to use my desktop and see if I can just avoid some of this, tech stuff. It's frustrating for me and for you, I'm sure. So thanks for bearing with me. Let's get into our content. Okay. So we are, like I mentioned, talking about growth and development. And we're in the second class of module 2 right now for 1002. Just as a bit of a recap, in our last class, we talked about Erickson's stages of development. We talked about newborn reflexes, if you remember. And then we also talked about the different stages, toddlerhood, so those Erickson stages, right? Toddlerhood, preschool, school-aged, etc. So now today we're going to be moving into adolescence. So adolescence is the time, so moving from childhood. So adolescence is the time between puberty and adulthood, right? And it's a time of growth and physical, sexual, emotional, and social changes, right? We all remember, we all know what that was like, recall. And so there's lots that's happening in adolescence overall. And it's the stage where puberty really begins, is adolescence. And again, it's stated as 12 to 18, right? For this presentation and in your programming. And so 12 to 18 is adolescence. So again, it's the time between puberty and adulthood. It's a time of rapid growth in sexual, emotional, and social changes. The stage begins with puberty, right? So again, puberty is happening. Girls reach puberty between the ages of 10 and 14, and boys reach the puberty ages between 12 and 16. And we talked a little bit last class about how typically, girls often grow sooner than boys, right? So there's often in the middle school years of school some disconnect in height differences, and that the girls hit puberty first. So this is why. Some of the girls are taller earlier because they hit puberty first. Developmental tasks of adolescence include accepting the changes in the body and appearance, developing appropriate relationships with males and females of the same age, accepting the role appropriate for one's age and identified gender, becoming independent from parents and adults, so more independence is coming through, and then that are able to develop morals, attitudes, and values needed to function in society at this age. There's also an increased use of social media and electronic communication devices for communicating with peers. And we see that a lot with obviously cell phones and then the influence of social media as well, but it plays a huge part in adolescent development as well, and influence, large influence. So what really kind of marks, like we mentioned in the first slide, the changes in these years is puberty. And so for girls, I just have a slide summarizing the changes in puberty for boys and girls. So menarche, it marks the onset of puberty in girls, and that's the first menstruation and the start of menstrual cycles. Pregnancy can occur, of course, right, because they are starting to menstruate, which means that ovulation is usually occurring. And secondary sex characteristics appear in females. So in girls or in females, that includes breasts and pubic hair, armpit hair, and other secondary changes. For males, ejaculation or the release of semen signals the onset of puberty. They can have nocturnal emissions. And at that time too, once ejaculation starts occurring, males can father children as well, just like the females can father or get pregnant. Males can father children after puberty. Their secondary sex characteristics appear as well for males, things like their Adam's apple, facial hair, pubic hair, armpit hair, so some similar ones to females and some differences. Males also get other body hair more extensively often as well, chest hair, leg hair, etc. Adolescents need to become independent of adults, especially of their parents. And again, this is the ages of 12 to 18. But it's definitely a transitionary period because they're hitting puberty, but then they're also kind of determining and pulling away from family norms. And so things are changing in adolescence. Growth spurts often occur in adolescence. It's often considered the awkward stage. Find changes in physical appearance sometimes hard to accept, or sometimes it's frustrating for them. These changes in their body or not understanding, or some confusion. They may be concerned with weight and try various diets. Weight does seem to fluctuate quite a bit during the growth period of puberty, and that the body is sometimes preparing to grow, so it puts on weight, etc. Okay, intense emotions, as we all probably are very aware, and then that dating begins and crowd dates can start. Crowd date and group dates start, and they start hanging out together. There's more coupling, those types of things, of course. And again, this is 12 to 18 years old. One of the kind of, I made a slide with a summary of the main things to kind of know about kids of this age or teenagers, clients possibly, right? So knowing that in adolescence, they often prefer to be with peers instead of doing things with their family. That's pretty darn typical. They say the primary influence of adolescence is actually their peer group, which if you're a parent, I'm sure that's scary for you a little bit. It's for me, but yeah, so they definitely shift from being kind of more under the strong parental influence to trying to, be more independent and pull away. And it's natural, but sometimes it's a little bit clumsy across the board. Adolescents may begin to feel or show a sexual orientation. So again, during 12 to 18, appearance is quite important to them. Adolescents begin to think about careers, maybe what they want to do, what they want to become as far as their life goes. Teens need to develop morals, values, and attitudes for living in society so that they're prepared to have a successful life. Parents, peers, culture, religion, and the media and school are some influencing factors of adolescence. This lecture will probably be a little bit shorter than usual because I'm not we're not engaging, taking time for questions and doing the activities in real time. So just as a heads up, so I don't think it'll be, crazy long. Time-wise, I'm not sure because I'm going to add the Kahoot questions at the end, but we'll see, okay? So that's the end of the information about adolescence. So I was going to move next into talking more about young adulthood. Okay. In young adulthood, psychological and social development continues. There's a little physical growth. Developmental tasks of young adulthood include choosing an education and a career, selecting a partner, learning to live with a partner, becoming a parent and raising children, as well as developing a satisfactory sex life. So living a well life and different components of wellness kind of can really come into play during young adulthood. Okay, there's a little bit more information from your readings. Many adults marry, some choose to remain single. Partners must learn to live together. So it's definitely a compromising adult relationship typically if you have a partner in adulthood. Adults need to develop a satisfactory sex life. So something in the wording there you can see develop, something that's independent. Everyone has an independent sexual wellness. And so, developing a satisfactory sex life as an adult, right? And determining what that looks like. Couples can plan when they or if they want to have children and how many. Parents must agree on child-rearing practices and adjust the child's needs and with the parental time, energy, and parental attention needed. There's a balance there as well. In middle adulthood, that's 45 to 65 years, this stage is more stable and comfortable. Developmental tasks relate to adjusting to physical changes, having grown children, developing leisure time activities, and relating to aging parents. This is a very busy phase of life, and it's because the children are getting older and need help becoming independent. And then often an individual's parents or a client's parents are getting older as well around this phase of life. And so then they're also feeling the responsibility to care for their parents. But meanwhile, themselves are aging and feeling more fatigued, right? And trying to manage. And so it is quite a busy phase, middle adulthood. They're saying it's stable and comfortable, yeah, but there is a lot to manage because other influences typically, right? But as far as stability and comfortability, as far as the hormones calming down, knowing who you are, knowing your morals, those things, of course, are more stable and comfortable, usually in the middle adulthood years. Yeah, and so there's those few tasks we mentioned there as well. Particularly that aging parents can really be heavy in the middle adulthood years and really be a responsibility that could be weighing on your client or something that's causing them some stress at this age. Concerns about their parents even. In middle adulthood, there are several physical changes that can occur. So I mentioned the responsibilities often in middle age include, helping adult children becoming independent in life, as well as in transitioning to that, is helping aging parents. And so, and then I also had said that while you're getting more fatigued, right? And so this is what I was mentioning, and that your energy and endurance begin to slow down. So as your clients age, they are going to slow and be a little more fatigued. Because their metabolism and physical activities also begin to slow. Facial wrinkles and gray hair appear, common to meet glasses. Hearing loss can start, menopause can occur, and many diseases and illnesses can develop. When we talked about initially the different this module 2 on stages of development, I mentioned Eric's stages of development, right? And that was what was in your textbook. And you can see through this list, I just wanted to review it one more time with you, that Erickson's stages are trust versus mistrust at 0 to 1 years, autonomy versus doubt at 1 to 3 years, initiative versus guilt at 3 to 6 years, competence versus inferiority at 6 to 12 years, identity versus role confusion at 12 to 20, intimacy versus isolation at 20 to 40, generativity versus stagnation at 40 to 65, and integrity versus despair at greater than 65. So those are the general main stages. Previously, we just talked about the ranges of age. And so I just wanted to kind of mention the different psychosocial things that are happening as well at each stage. Okay, continuing on into middle adulthood. Okay, so so far we've covered young adulthood, and we're moving into middle adulthood, and then I just kind of referenced back to Erickson's stages, and I just wanted to complete talking about middle adulthood. So this is our final slide for that one. Okay, it's a summary slide. Okay, in middle adulthood, children leave home and parents must lead their own lives. Hobbies and pastimes bring pleasure. I mean, they always do, right? But I feel like sometimes there's more time, or it's felt that there's more time in middle adulthood for your clients. And then many middle-aged adults deal with the death of parents. And the responsibility for aging parents may begin during this stage as well. So like I kind of mentioned and focused on at the beginning, it's just the responsibilities of middle adulthood can feel quite heavy. Okay, so I think my slides might have went out of sequence by one because now I have my Erickson's stages of development. I do. So I'm going to go back to this concept. So I reviewed these stages of psychosocial development for Erickson's. Okay, we finished out our middle adulthood conversation, but this slide should have immediately followed this one. So I'm going to do it that way now. So those are the 8 stages, right, of psychosocial development. So you need to be familiar with those for your exam and for your certification. And then I just wanted to kind of explain a little bit more. So I said before we talked about the age ranges of the 8 stages. And so each stage that I just showed you involves a crisis of 2 opposing forces, right? And factors that influence psychosocial health include personality, family background, environment, and life circumstances. So that's kind of like a premise or a base of the psychosocial stages of Erickson's, right? What factors influence those two opposing forces that are listed for each stage. So again, this slide coincides here with these ones. You need to be aware of these. You don't have to have them memorized, but you need to be aware of them and generally what they are. Okay, and that's what we're trying to do here with this slide. All right, so we have one more slide, and it's into late adulthood. And it's if you're 65 years and older. Okay, so in late adulthood, there are some major changes, and it's actually a majority of the population you're going to be working with as an HCA will be middle adulthood or sorry, pardon me, late adulthood adults in generally long-term care or in home care, but we'll be working a lot with this population. And so we're going to spend some extra time exploring it in this course and even just right away here. So developmental tasks are adjusting to decreased physical strength and loss of health. So that's what's happening in late adulthood. Adjusting to retirement and reduced income, coping with a partner's death, developing new friends and relationships, as well as preparing for one's own death. Those seem like pretty big, heavy things, hey? So maybe imagining what it might be like to be at that stage. So I did prepare a critical thinking scenario for you, and I would very much like it if you could still participate, even though we're doing it in this way. I think that, again, we can still engage with me, right? Just kind of, you'll have to pause here, okay? So your critical thinking scenario is this one, okay? You're caring for a client when another HCA assistant approaches you and wants you to see something. As you follow her, she gets to a client's room and starts to open the door without knocking. She then tells you a client married couple of the facility are being intimate. She is snickering and says, I didn't think this was possible at their age. What do you do? So I can even phrase it a little more clearly. What is the HCA's next step? Okay, so let me know. We'll write it down even, and then I like to think what I'll do is I'll follow up with this on Wednesday to what you thought, okay? Because this is a good way to kind of relate some of the stages, but also considerations for sexual intimacy in seniors. Okay, so we will come back to this. So please engage with it, write it down if you'd like, and we'll come back to it. But consider your options. Pause here if you need to take some time with it. So as I mentioned, we're going to talk more about sex, seniors, and physical changes. I just passed kind of my later break slide, and so just for your awareness and time's sake, we shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be recording probably more than 20 more minutes. And then, yeah, I have the Kahoot questions for you, so that'll take you some time as well. Okay. So sex and seniors, as far as physical changes, what happens? So in men, the hormone testosterone decreases. It affects strength, sperm production, and reproductive tissues. Erections take longer. The phase between erection and orgasm is longer. Orgasm is less forceful than when younger. Erections are lost quickly, and then the time between erections can sometimes be longer as well. So as testosterone decreases, there's some impact. Okay? Menopause occurs in women. When it does, menstruation stops. Women can no longer have children. Estrogen and progesterone decrease. There's some atrophy in genitalia. Sometimes the vaginal walls get thinner and there's some vaginal dryness. Arousal can take longer. Orgasms can be less intense. And then the pre-excitement state returns more quickly. Love, affection, and intimacy do not disappear as clients get older. This is kind of the main message, right? It's very normal for adults to be sexual. And then there's a couple of things from your textbook from it's chapter 21, but growth and development, okay? But you can look into the text boxes. Respecting and promoting the client's sexuality would be a great read, as well as the box focus on long-term care, client sexual rights. So again, that's in the growth and development chapter of the textbook. Okay. The one other concept that we need to introduce today before we move into our Kahoot is care that is provided to a patient what is palliative care? So we got kind of through the Erickson stages, right, to each stages of development, right? And so we ended on the older adult. We talked a little bit of older adult sexuality, and then now we're going to talk about just what is palliative care. And that is one of your glossary terms as well, so you should be familiar. Okay, so it is a care that is provided to a patient and their family at the end of life. All right, so know that. And the goal is to reduce suffering and improve the quality of life. That is the purpose or the goal of palliative care generally. What does that kind of look like for the HCA, right? So palliative care, okay. This is what the client's needs are usually at the end of life. Comfort and positioning sometimes. Sometimes they need pain relief, vision and eye care, hearing and speech, mouth, nostril, and skin care, as well as any kind of elimination and nutrition care. So that means going to the bathroom and any kind of eating, right? Providing a comfortable and pleasant room is really incredibly important, and they do have generally palliative care facilities where you can go to pass away. Unnecessary equipment ideally should be removed, and the client and family can arrange the room as they wish. It's not always known circumstances, so people aren't always able to attend a palliative care facility. People don't always know that they're going to be passing away. And then sometimes there's just not availability, or there's different circumstances as far as appropriateness, or even, yeah, like I said, availability to get into some of the hospice or palliative care type facilities. So I've given you all the information, so rapid fire for your lecture just now for today. And so what I will do next is I'm going to share the Kahoot questions with you. What I'll do is actually, I'm going to try doing something with Kahoot where you can go through them on your own and do the review just independently. So I'm going to share the link with you in my email where I'm sharing this slide, okay? So share the link to the Kahoot game or the Kahoot questions. It's a fairly hefty one in the sense that there's 15 questions and they span all of growth and development, right? And so again, that's why I wanted to really make sure I did it for this unit, because there's a lot of information, right? And I'm sure you're kind of wondering, well, what do we need to know? Because there was so much. So I just wanted to give you the opportunity to do a little bit of a self-assessment on growth and development knowledge. And so I'm going to share a link with you then in the email for completing the Kahoot questions. Again, there's 15 of them. I'm sure you'll do well, but again, we can talk about how your Kahoot goes and your response to the scenario question in our next class for 1002 on Wednesday. Additionally, like I mentioned, I am going to be recording 1004 lecture today as well due to my sound issues. So I've got a headset that will allow the subtitles to show, but it's still not actually recording my voice in the way that it needs to be able to be live in the classroom. So I'm going to, go on campus on Wednesday to teach you, but your 1004 lecture will be recorded as well. Thanks for your flexibility. I wish this was a different circumstance, but we're working with it, and look how nice and short this was. So, I mean, it was a solution for today anyway, okay? So we still got the information to you, and hopefully you're able to engage with it a little bit, and then we'll see how you do on the Kahoot questions, okay? And then just make sure you save your scenario response, as well as any feedback about the Kahoot or questions you have about the Kahoot questions and review questions, to our class on Wednesday. All right, I'm going to see you shortly in your recording for 1004. All right, everybody, we'll talk soon. Bye.